take a pay cut. Sorry, honey. I mean, you know, when it's your own show, you're not going to get your $2 million anymore. Listen, honey, I'm just here telling you how it all works, people. So she'll do it though. I think we're actually at the point where Teresa is like, I will take the 500 grand, but give Louis 100. It gives you, oh, wait a second, for my whole family, this is almost the same amount of money. And I could just laugh all day and love, love, love. I think she's finally ready. I think, I feel it. But what do you think? Do you believe it that Teresa is trying to get her spinoff?
Well, look, I will say two things. Number one, I think Teresa is the only housewife that could pull off a spinoff that I would watch. The only one. I do not want to see any housewife with a spinoff besides Teresa. It has worked for her in the past. She has a great family. I'm intrigued with her family. It's funny, I know Teresa more than any other producer in the world. When I'm looking at this season, it's the first season that I see Teresa being checked out. I don't think she is into it anymore. I think she isn't the same Teresa now that she's divorced from Joe. All of this is just me watching the show. I haven't addressed this with her. This is based upon my friendship with her and knowing her. I do agree that I just don't see her enjoying the show anymore. Now, Teresa's a hustler and she loves the money. So I think to your point, the money has to be right if that opportunity did come up. But I will say, I do see her being checked out. I've never seen Teresa leave a scene or F you to the camera. That's Teresa is committed to making that show great. But I do think based upon she's found new love in her life. And one thing I know is when a woman finds a new love, it changes things for them. And I think because of Louis and where Teresa is in her mind right now and her life and David being on that show since 2008, I think after 14 years, she's over it.
Yeah. And so if the money were right and she does get the spinoff and she takes it, do you think, I mean, look, we stopped production when she was in jail.
Rightfully so.
Can New Jersey, can New Jersey exist without Teresa?
That's going to be hard. And I'm gonna tell you why. All those women on Jersey are great. Again, I think Jersey is so underrated. I don't think people are talking about the show like they should. Jersey is fantastic. I love all those women on the show. Teresa brings a certain element to that cast because it's interesting to be the pop star, the villain, the people's champ, and the comedian. It's hard to be all of those things to a housewife franchise, but Teresa is all those things to that show. I personally, and this is nothing against those women because they're great. I love Jackie's storyline this season. I'm rooting for her. I like my heart is pouring out for her to win it in terms of her eating disorder. But when it comes to the collective, I truly cannot see that show without Teresa. I just can't. I don't know what else those women would have conflict in. Melissa, Marge, Jackie, Dolores, they all love each other and they're all fine. Jennifer Aiden's on an island, but based upon what I saw from Jennifer this past season, where the moment Margaret checked her with facts and Jennifer became a recluse and started to cry, Jennifer is not the queen bee y'all make her out to be. She couldn't handle the truth, not to quote a movie. But you need a woman who can get in there and just make things happen. And I don't see that happening without Teresa.
Yeah. I mean, I always say I think Teresa is the most powerful housewife because of that, as far as we stopped the show, guys. I mean,
we stopped the show. And that's when you had, I think Caroline was on that season when they stopped it. Caroline, Jacqueline, Melissa, and they still said, no, we cannot do the show without Teresa. And I just think that's the facts.
What about, your premiere episode of your podcast? You had my good friend, Miss Eboni K. Williams. Applause, applause, applause. We love Miss Eboni. So you guys talked and you got into it, RHONY, like, again, I always say maybe it's because I live in New York and I know Eboni, so maybe I was biased. I didn't think it was such a bad season of RHONY personally, based on the public outcry. That was just me, but I don't know. Maybe I was busy with a lot of other things. I don't know. You're making a face.
David.
You hated it, you said.
But I'm going to be honest. And I said this on the podcast. New York City Housewives was taking a downward spiral because the other franchises at least have personal story that you can sink your teeth into. There's no personal story on New York City. Ramona doesn't give you any. Sonia doesn't give you any. Luann gave you great personal story with the alcoholism with Tom. And so that was always great. But you can't, and Tinsley gave you great stuff trying to find herself. But all those were missing. And it was a show about women getting drunk and partying and turtle time. And that's not what I want to see in a housewife. So I think when Eboni came on, I was hard on Eboni because I felt like, and I said this to her, I felt like I was being preached to all the time. And what I said to Eboni was, when I watch The View, I want politics. I want policy. I want world events. I want the whole 9 yards. I don't want personal story from Sunny, Joy Behar, Whoopi Goldberg, nobody. But I demand that from my housewives, not politics from them. So that was my disdain with this past season of New York City. But I love the conversation I had with Eboni because she shed light on the struggle she had to endure. And that's the reason why, David, we go back to my earlier comment of the importance of the producer relationship with the housewife. That is integral to making the show successful. And Eboni did not have a producer that would be able to help her story. And I think that was a missing element. But the good news is I will go on record again saying Eboni deserves a second chance. And I am looking forward to seeing what Eboni can bring to the reboot of New York City, because I believe she will come back.
You do?
Oh, I think Bravo needs to have somebody familiar to be a part of a reboot. It's hard to make people fall in love with a whole new cast for that franchise. It's hard. At least with Eboni, Eboni is always in the press. She is the first Black housewife. I think if you surround Eboni and her friends and they're great characters, I think a lot of people will sort of like, let me see if this season's good.